Swaminathan.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. I think we have, the opposition has spoken by many speakers, and I don't think they touched much on the budget, but there is no more noise than the budget. Basically, this budget is reviving a crisis-driven economy with people-friendly development budget. Sri Lanka should take into account the famous words of former US President John Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. We inherited a crisis-ridden economy, and it is not an easy task to revive the economy which has been mismanaged for the last 10 years. The 2016 budget is both a development-oriented and a relief-centered budget. This implies that the main thrust of the budget is twofold and includes reducing the cost of living, burden on the people, while carrying forward the development agenda. According to the Fitch rating, the government budget proposal reiterates ambitious set of economic reforms aimed at raising foreign investments, boosting private sector participation in the country, promoting public and private partnership, reducing the dependency in costly foreign borrowings, improving ease of doing business, and ensuring governance standards with the view to achieve inclusive growth, employment generation, shared prosperity, and protecting the poor and the vulnerable. That is the theme of the budget. In 2016, budget public investments has focused on infrastructure development, health, education, and human capital development. Therefore, the budget not only helps to revive the crisis-driven economy, but also includes the proposal to achieve people's-friendly, inclusive of development. Now, this is what this budget entirely has in mind, but the opposition are misinterpreting the terms of this budget. The past mistakes and mismanagement, a challenge to the new government. Under the previous regime, 60 to 70% of the total budget was discretion of a few family members. As a result, the position of the cabinet of ministers was eroded without any authority. Public assets were misused and given to friends and relatives. The global confidence was eroded, resulting in losing of foreign investments and wait-and-see policy of the private sector. High sustainable and unsustainable debt of 72% of the GDP, excessive dependence on foreign commercial borrowings from few countries, on exorbitant interest rates, low growth, tamasha-ridden economy with wasteful expenditure, and failure to look into the human rights issues and dignity of minority community had serious adverse implications on this economy. Unemployment of educated youth is more than 20%. Of the national policies were made on personal discretions and individual opinions of few family members rather than based on national aspiration through wider consultations. Hence, the policy failures and government failures resulted in an accumulated burden and had carried forward impact on the 2016 budget. This must be really studied by the opposition. High debt servicing resulted due to exorbitant amounts of expenditure of foreign debts obtained by previous regime, which has imposed a limitation in managing the budgetary resources of the current year. Funds were mismanaged, violating of tender procedures, principles of good governance, and lack of transparency and accountability. Unsolicited proposals were encouraged. Public enterprises were managed badly with political motives, and funds were diverted for other purposes. Sri Lankan Airlines' total outstanding debt amounted to 157 billion, and about 72% accumulated during the previous regime. Although infrastructure-related development works were carried out in the past at an accelerated pace, there were very little concerns for value for money. And as a result, the country was saddled with large amount of foreign debts and high debt servicing, resulting in limitations imposed on spending. Sri Lanka damaged its foreign relations, lost its international image, foreign assistance, and GSP Plus was deprived due to the poor handling of foreign relations. Country was isolated by the international community. There was a ban on export of fish to the European Union, which makes up 68% of the total exports, fish exports, and annual loss is about 23 billion due to this ban. The last few months were received positive responses from the global community, as measures were taken in to reinstate democracy, good governance, transparency, and accountability. The finance minister has formulated an excellent people-friendly budget covering all sections of the society given these limitations. The government budget of 2016 aims to promote macroeconomic stability, which includes maintaining single-digit low inflation, 2 to 3% at the end of the year, high economic growth between 7% to 8%, balance of payment stability, increasing of foreign exchange reserves, generating 1 million employment. That is our Honorable Prime Minister's brainwave. Poverty reduction, development of rural and agricultural-based economy, and inclusive development that takes care of all vulnerable groups, including the senior citizens, women, and children. The 2016 budget deficit is expected to be 740 billion rupees, which is 5.9% of the GDP. The budget expects the GDP growth rate at 7 to 8% in 2016. The foreign direct investment export promotion strategy, the public and private partnership and private sector development are key pillars of the budgetary framework. The budget proposes that Sri Lankan should be now graduate from an inward-looking strategy to an outward-looking strategy to reach out new markets beyond the boundaries of this country. Private sector is recognized as an engine of economic growth. Don't forget that, members of the opposition, honorable members of the opposition. Our exports have gradually declined and now stand at 14% of the GDP, whereas the import has increased up to 27% of the GDP. The budget proposal for 2016 includes the following, which is very, very important, significant features. Land lease taxes for foreigners will be removed to promote investment. Investment is important if this country has to do well in its economy. Budget has directed to establish an export-import bank, Exim Bank, to facilitate international trade. It will improve the international trade in the country. The Exporters Association of Sri Lanka has expressed satisfaction of the budget 2016 as it proposes to establish an Export Development Council of Ministers chaired by His Excellency the President for the country's export strategy formulation and implementation. The restructuring of Export Development Board, the Board of Investment, and formulation of the SME policy are considered as important pillars for export growth, SME development, and for inclusive growth. The budget laid several foreign investments-friendly proposals, including the lifting of restrictions of foreign ownerships of land. Under the former regime, foreigners owning properties was banned in 2012, and the real estates leased to non-nationals were subjected to 100% tax payable upfront for the entire duration of the lease. The budget proposal 2016 removes the release tax and non-nationals to promote foreign direct investments. That is an important factor that we have to consider. This is for the purpose of foreign direct investment. The budget has focused on population below poverty line. Low-income groups, lower middle-income groups are lagging regions. Sri Lanka, over 20% of the population earns less than $2 per day. Northern and eastern provinces were lagging behind due to ignored development. Uva and other provinces are lagging due to ignored development. Agriculture is a cornerstone of our economy. The government is formulating a new agricultural policy to make the country self-sufficient in maize, soya, bean, chili, onions, and potatoes by 2018 through crop diversification, production improvement, and graduate into an agri-business with access to export market from subsistence economy. The post-harvest losses are about 30 to 40%. Therefore, the government proposes to set up a warehouse with a state-of-the-art technology to address the post-harvest issues. A cash grant of 25,000 will be provided to the small-scale paddy farmers for a maximum extent of 1 hectare. This will allow farmers greater flexibility in selecting their farm inputs. The budget proposals highlight some of the important development interventions to make the life of the masses more comfortable and uplift the national economy. That's very important. The Sri Lankan harbours to reach the top 20 harbours in the world by 2025. Hambantota and Trincomalee harbours will be revived for ships repairing and bunker preparing. 1,500 million has been allocated to develop Kelani Valley railway line. Entrance point to Peta to be made convenient and road to be developed from Kelani Bridge to up to Peta. 1,000 million allocated to set up storage facilities for crops. New domestic airports to be established in Digana, Badulla and Puttalam. New access road from Kelani to Colombo Fort at a cost of 4,000 million rupees. Sweeping reforms will be introduced to streamline the operation of public enterprises, and their management will be professionalized and not politicized. Private sector will be encouraged to join the management of Katunayaka and Southern X-ray. Public-private partnership in monorail connecting Negombo, Katunayaka and Colombo, Kaduvela is proposed in the budget to strengthen the transport arrangements, which is a very important and a significant factor. The 2016 budget has given much emphasis to the human capital development to uplift the quality of human resources so that we can compete internationally with other countries. In this context, health, education, technical skills, and vocational trainings have been given important focus in the national budget. With regard to health sector, substantial funds have been allocated, and this includes the following proposals: 3,000 million for Anuradhapura, Jaffna and Kurunagala Hospital, and 2,000 million allocated to construct a specialized hospital for kidney disease in Mineria, and 6,500 million allocated to establish kidney dialysis centers. 3,000 million for 3 cancer hospitals, one in Nallur, Kandy and Matara. With regard to education sector, a sizable allocation of over 65,000 million in 2016 for capital development work. About 5.4% of the GDP has been set aside for educational development. 3,000 million has been allocated to establish the Malabe Mahapola University and courses offered including business administration, English and management. All undergraduates will be receive accommodation facilities, which is the important factor. The majority of this country who migrate to foreign employment has served as housemaid because the past education system has not improved their skills in technical and vocational areas, and such focus was absent in GC O-level and A-level in the past. The current budget proposes technical and vocational training for O-level and A-level students, which helps to bridge the gap between the education and employment and help them to access decent employment in par with their educational qualification. Every student to complete AL education or receive vocational training after OL to be made compulsory. 300 million to be allocated for interest-free loans to university students to purchase laptops. Students' number per class will be limited to 35. 30,000 million allocated to assist 1,360 neglected schools to improve their facilities. 15,000 million allocated to provide library and IT centers in schools. $250 million allocated to develop estate sector. Import taxes on books, journals, magazines, and sports goods will be completely removed. 4,000 million is allocated to provide sanitation facilities to schools. Many schools have no proper sanitation facilities. Poor school attendance and increased dropouts is partly attributed to lack of sanitation facilities. 2,000 million is allocated to provide accommodation and other amenities for school teacher and continuous training program for teachers, particularly in science, maths, and English. Education sector will be modernized with their life skills and independent thinking. An exam-centered education system is to be replaced with skills-centered system. The budget 2016 also proposes to strengthen and improve the banking and financial sector. Central Bank of Sri Lanka has failed to its role in the past years as an independent regulatory due to politicization, which led to the finance companies' prone vulnerability. In 2016 budget proposes to change this situation by restructuring the banking and financial sector. several banks to be merged to set up a stronger financial institution. The housing program to cover lower and middle income groups, 100,000 housing units for families living in shanties, 150,000 housing units for middle income families, 5,000 housing units for senior public sector employees. This is a remarkable initiative. Sri Lanka to be asbestos free by 2018. This is also the request of His Excellency the President. The vocational training to be provided for construction workers and construction materials, import taxes to be reduced. Foreign contractors encouraged to work with local contractors, and the use of solar energy to be encouraged. Fisheries harbors will be developed to support offshore deep fishing. 750 million allocated to the developments of Chilau, Mirisa, Kalmone and Karanagar harbor developments. Micro, small, medium enterprises to be strengthened. Strengthening MSME is considered as a strategy for poverty reduction, employment generation and inclusive growth. Micro, small and medium enterprises covering sectors such as furniture, IT, dairy products, flowers, fisheries will be supposed to obtain loan. An act of government will be introduced with a regulatory body. Banks to move away from the collateral-based lending to business model-based lending to promote the MSMEs. In the past, the schemes to eradicate poverty were politicized, and those in real need of assistance were deprived. Venture capital and management and incubator assistance to MSMEs are to be provided under the 2016 budget. Ease to the cost of living in common man. The budget has also reduced the prices of 13 essential goods to ease the living of the conditions of the general public. Market rate vouchers will be issued for a student's uniform so that they will have a choice to purchase uniform considering the quality on a competitive basis. The budget 2016 has simplified the tax regime to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of the government revenue collection and at the same time introduce the business-friendly budget, creating a win-win situation for both government and private sector with decent economic growth for the country. The government proposed a park and drive facility whereby the vehicles which come into city will be required to carry a minimum of 4 passengers, and any vehicle that does not fulfill this will be imposed a tax. Budget 2016 has been increased to senior citizens eligibility 1 million to 1.5 million with a return of 15% per annum, and reduced the age of senior citizen from 60 to 55. The rate allows the banks to pay 14.06% on a monthly basis, which amounts to 17,575 rupees per month. Government considers democracy, freedom and respect of rights as key pillars for economic and social development. During the past regime, the oppressed people, communities, media, civil societies could not come out to express their views openly, either by protest or by means. Today, you can see that the government has provided opportunities to express their views openly and even assemble and protest march, which were considered as a vital element in democratic freedom. The budget proposes to increase the representation of women in elected political institutions to 25%. As set out in the budget proposal of 2016, grievances of the people in the war-affected area is to be addressed by the government. Significant amount of funds will be allocated to implement development projects in the war-affected areas. The budget 2016 proposed to convene a special donor conference in 2016 to generate support from the bilateral and unilateral multilateral agencies to enhance the rehabilitation of North and East. The budget also expressed a commitment to address the issue of internally displaced people immediately and initiate a rapid large-scale resettlement program for the IDPs and provide basic needs and livelihood opportunities to the already settled families. The 20,000 houses will be built in Mannar and Mullaitivu with proper sanitation facility to access clean water and electricity. Improvements in the construction of Delft Jetty, renovation of roads from Velane to Kites, establishment of clinical waste management have also been incorporated. A sum of rupees 14,000 million is allocated for North and East development. A public enterprise partnership to be established to strengthen the red clay factory in Ottosutan to enhance the livelihood development. Construction of many industrial parks in Jaffna, 1 year Ampare to support incubator assistance to micro, small and medium enterprises. Agro-livestock fish processing park in Bavania and Kilinochi is also an important initiative. The fisheries harbour with a state-of-art technology in Kalmune, Valvetiture and Karanagar will extend the support to develop fisheries sector. Agriculture, aquaculture park in Batiklo under the public-private partnership arrangement will support to develop a coastal aquaculture without causing environmental degradation. New rural economic zone to be established in Bavania to develop the rural economy.
Now,
Cancer hospital to be established in Nallur.
now your time is over.
2 minutes. Cancer hospital to be established in Nallur. New industrial zone will be developed in Trincomalee. Connecting the country northeast and expressway will be developed to connect Dambulla, Polanaruwa, Mullaitivu and Jaffna under public way. Rome was not built in a day, but the opposition should also not forget that Emperor Nero fiddled while Rome was on fire. I think that is why the opposition is doing it now. With the excellent discretion and direction development of the oriented professional approach, a delicate balance is maintained between much-needed economic reform and price reduction. The unexpected cost from the contract signed by the past government has also restricted the space available to the government to manage resources very prudent and efficient manner. The government has introduced a zero-based budgeting system which helps to rationalize all public expenditure based on relevance and justification. The government budget of 216 has covered the business community development, community and general public, low middle class income groups, women, children, vulnerable, senior citizens, public officers and all concerned stakeholders. It is not an easy to cover all parties who have conflict of interest, and as such I consider this budget as a development oriented friendly budget which covers the aspiration of Sri Lankans. This budget is a major milestone to create an upper middle class economy with inclusive growth and development. Let me very specially thank His Excellency the President of Maithripala Sirisena and Honorable Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe for the leadership and guidance provided, and Honorable Ravi Karunanayake, Minister of Finance, for presenting a people-friendly development budget that covers all sections of society. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.